Hello everyone, and welcome along to another immediate reaction to a Rangers signing. We always like new players coming in the door at Rangers, and we've got another one today as Hamza Igamane was finally signed on the dotted line at Ibrox and presented to the cameras, to media, across social media, all of that sort of good stuff. So we do have a scarf above the head picture, so it means we can indeed start with these immediate reactions. I'm joined by Tommy McIntyre to give our initial thoughts on the player signing, where we think he'll fit into the squad, a bit about his profile, and then a wider look at the business done so far and where we think we need to still strengthen as we go ahead. Tommy, Hamza Igamane, 21-year-old Moroccan player, a centre forward, which is always good to hear, especially after last season. Can also play right wing or left wing, but we'll come on to why we desperately need him to play in his preferred position. But he joins from, I'm going to go for FAR Rabat, but it might be FAR Rabat. It might be one of the two. So please ignore the incorrect one there. And he's a Moroccan under-23 international. The fee kind of differs depending on where you read. Ranges from £1.7 million to £2.6 million. So around that £2 million mark we're looking at. Tommy, what are your initial thoughts on the signing? Is he the kind of player we needed?
Well, I think that remains to be seen. Is probably the answer to that, and I don't mean that as a negative, right? I think he's an up-and-coming young player, and we can touch on that's been the kind of sequence of signings at this part of the window for Rangers anyway, in that kind of younger bucket. But anything that strengthens the forward line, anybody who's able to play across that forward line, right, left, through the middle in particular, is really interesting. I think, given that it wasn't a particularly well-kept secret that he was going to be signing, actually, so it's good to get him in the door. It continues the run that Rangers are on, which is, you go down it, you've got Hamza coming in, Hamza that people in Scotland can get behind. I know it's Hamza, by the way. Cortez, Kelly, Nsiala, Hefty, Barron. It's a lot of work to be done that has been done. And amongst turmoil within the club at the moment, no CEO and all that type of good stuff, right? Problems with the stadium works. And it's the 5th of July. So that's a positive we can hold on to. But yeah, it's always good to see somebody coming in, and I'm a big fan of seeing somebody who's going to play in the forward line, of course, right? We all get behind that. So yeah, another interesting younger signing for the club, for Niels Koppen, for Philippe Clement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned at the start there that he can play in a couple of different positions. He's 100% a striker through and through. And is his preferred position. It's a trend we've kind of seen with Rangers, especially over the last few years, where we buy a player, but then we just try and mould them into something else that kind of fits into our system. How important is it, and what do you make of Philippe Clement's decision so far, in terms of he does seem to be picking players to play a certain way or a certain system and to play in the positions that they're bought for. So how important is it that we do that and we don't try and mould them into something else?
It seems so logical that it feels like a trap that you're setting me up there for. But yeah, players who are naturally playing in a position and do it really well, keep playing them in that. I think if you wanted a wider answer on that, that's your core starting, right, a play in the position that you're in, but in a bit of tactical flexibility. So the fact he can play left or right, and he's done that, gives you a little bit of something. And also, players that have come in so far are young enough to be moulded, and then have that sell-on value and stuff like that as well. So whilst I still think we'll buy experienced players, and we'll probably come to that later on, it's no bad thing to have people who can drop into their actual preferred positions and say, right, I'm going to stake a jersey claim, no matter how old I am or how experienced. I'm going to stake a jersey claim in my preferred position because I can keep delivering there. That's a positive thing.
Yeah, I think I've not watched the customary YouTube video of Hamza Igamane as yet, but I think from the scouting reports that I've read online, from the sort of data you see online, he sounds like a World Cup winner, the way that he's described in some of them now. He's 21 years old and he's coming to Rangers, so that's not going to be the case. But there's very much they talk about, in terms of trends of what the various different articles and scout reports talk about. His positioning is excellent. He's particularly good at sort of subtle movements inside the opposition penalty area, something that I think we've lacked for quite a significant number of seasons now in terms of that sort of movement in that key space, especially when you're up against that low block or 10 men behind the ball kind of space. He seems to be fairly strong in aerial duels, making him a target for crosses. We love a cross at Ibrox. That might change this year depending on whether James Tavernier is here or not, but we do enjoy a cross into the box at Ibrox. He's capable of effective link-up play, can often drop deep to assist in that build-up. Again, helpful when you're in a European tie or you're away from home and that against a more difficult team. It's that kind of link-up play that we need. And how many times were we on podcast talking about Cyril Dessers last year and just not holding up the ball or not bringing in other players to the mix further up the pitch, and that's something that we are desperately lacking at this moment in time.
You sound like you might have got an agent's DM there, to be honest with you. Is that what happened?
It's not what happened. It's actually our very own Ross Chalmers sent me a summary, which I'm very, very grateful for. But one thing that actually made me laugh, because it just it reminded me of Alfredo Morelos. Good vision for creative passing, though accuracy can be inconsistent, which very much made me think of Alfredo Morelos. But he does appear to be confident on one-on-one situations. What you've heard there, it does sound like a great profile of player that we've picked up, and I think from what I've heard as well, there does seem to be genuine excitement around the club about this one getting over the line.
Yeah, they are actually. I think that's that is a fair comment. There's a lot of positivity around about it. And again, he's a young player. He's going to have dips in form. I can't think of many strikers whose stats or any are always kind of on the high for conversion of chances to chances that they actually have. Right, it's not the way it naturally works. I like the fact that he's willing to take chances. He's willing to keep going back. He's willing to keep doing that in the pressurised environment of Ibrox is where players really kind of show their mentality and stuff like that. But from the clips that I've seen and the people I've spoken to, it certainly looks like he's a calm finisher. He's not somebody who rushes with the ball, not somebody who takes the pressure on too much and stuff like that. So yeah, he's got a good profile. I understand that I think there was a couple of other clubs that were maybe looking at him as well, but we've managed to get in there and get it over the line. So it's a positive signing, in any shape or form. We've been crying out as well for casting the net quite wide. Well, it seems as though Niels Koppen, in conjunction with the football board and Philippe Clement, are casting the net pretty wide to try and make sure that we're getting the best for the money that we're spending and that we're getting the right profile of player. Now, again, some signings won't work, right? That's fine. But at least we're trying to do something slightly different here, and we're getting players who've got a young, exciting profile. So that's always a positive in my mind.
Yeah, you mentioned I guess Niels Koppen and some of the work he's done and actually taking us into new markets. I think all Rangers fans were insanely frustrated at how often we were dipping into the English Premier League reserve kind of market, or the being there done for the English Premier League, and you're at 30.
Which has its place, though, remembering the cross-border element to that. So, I mean, I'm with you, but there'll still be a place for that, because we can pick up well-drilled, well-schooled, well-taught and coached players.
I think there's a space for on the younger end of the market. I completely agree, but it was the older end of the market we kept fishing in, and that was where I think a lot of Rangers fans were getting frustration, even with the likes of John Lundstrom, for example. John Lundstrom, Joey Barton, etc., that were coming up here, and you were expecting them to do things, and they just weren't. But they were costing a lot of money, and they were on high wages. And
I just want Philip Senderos to get the run that he deserves. That's all I want.
I don't know if he's still presenting on Swiss TV or not after his swear word gaff that he had, but
he certainly never presented in a Rangers jersey, I'll tell you that. So.
No, he did not. But it does seem that Niels Koppen is widening that net into markets that we've not necessarily been in before. Some of them we have, but even if you look at Connor Barron coming in from Scotland, that's not somewhere we've not. When was the last time we signed a Scottish player, John Souttar, potentially is the outlier there for a few seasons. We were in obviously France for Cortez. You're looking at a combination of Cyprus and Brazil for Hefty, Italy for Enciala. You've got a wide range of different places there. We're not sticking to one or two set markets. We have set the net far and wide, as you say. How important is that, and how much, I guess, encouragement does that give you as a fan that we're picking players because they're the right players, not just because they're ones we can get and afford?
No, listen, absolutely. I'm completely with that. And we know fine well that the club will look and are looking to sign more experienced players later on in the window. But, the names that we've rhymed off here, if you take Diomande to one side, because he was already in the club, and you take Balogun to one side as well, it's an average age of 21 and a half. So that's a good thing. You get those youngsters in the door. I'm not going to duplicate all the kind of regions you've just rhymed off there, but yeah, it's a wide net, and all that due diligence and that scouting and analysis is pretty deep. I suppose the departure for Hamza or Igamane, I should say, is that he's the only one that hasn't been exposed to the European side of the football. He's just been North Africa and Moroccan football. I don't think that's an actual problem or anything like that, but it's just a small departure from the previous profile of players that were coming in. Even your Hefty had been playing in Cyprus and stuff like that. Cortez playing in France. So yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is we've looked at a young player who hopefully can stake a claim in the first team immediately, but he's very, very young. He's got ability. He's represented at his age group for his national side. And he's got the ability to come to Rangers, make a further mark, increase his value, and leave with hopefully winners' medals, but also bring more revenue into the club. That's exactly the type of signing we should be doing. And so we're packing all that out the way really early, and then allow the likes of Coppin and Clement to get round the table and finalise those discussions of the other transfers that we're after in terms of the more experienced people. So, and there's just an expectation there of we're getting some of the youngsters over the line earlier. It might mean that they're not necessarily going to walk straight into jerseys. I mean, I think with Sima maybe being a question mark, you're thinking Cortez and Hefty are probably potential starters there out that list. I don't think Barron or Kelly or...
I think Connor Barron could be. Depends what other business we do, but I think Connor Barron is going to be pushing for a starting slot.
Well, I think they should all be pushing. Don't get me wrong. I just mean in terms of that first day of the season type of scenario. You're looking at maybe a Hefty and definitely a Cortez. I think out that list is the one that stands out to say fully expect him to be a starter. But yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not saying that I don't expect them to be pushing for jerseys from the first day of training.
Yeah, you mentioned the average age there of 21 and a half of the sort of signings so far, and that includes Liam Kelly being at 28. So he's trying his hardest to shift the average up. But it has been a lot of sort of younger players and players that are in that mould of, okay, they'll come in, they'll need a wee bit of time to settle in, we'll try and develop them, and then hopefully they develop into class players for us and we get that sell-on value. I guess, would you expect this to be the last kind of player of that sort of profile that we see through the door this summer, and it will be in the more experienced profile that we see going forward?
I think that maybe one more. I think if there's good young players that we can get over the line, we'll absolutely do it. But yeah, I think the focus now shifts to getting in more experienced players, and that absolute starter, for want of a better way of putting it, right? It's a bit cliched. Some of that comes down to other clubs doing their work. We know that. It comes down to the Euros being completed as well. And obviously it comes down to budget and who you can get over the line. And it's always about a kind of shark fest at this point. But certainly the club have got names. They're engaged in conversations. There's people that are actively trying to get over the line. There's ones that are close. So yeah, maybe the other, without going down into will it be young, will it be not, what the number's going to be, the club aren't finished is probably the better statement there. There's definitely more to happen. Some of that might very well be triggered by established players at Ibrox leaving and freeing up wages and bringing in money as well.
I really do hope the club aren't finished, because we would be in a very sorry state, I think, going into the season in the position that we are currently in as a squad.
Yeah. I don't think people would be overly happy if you look down that list. And all got great potential, and Cortez we saw enough to say, we thought there was something in there, but he's also coming back from a really, really bad injury and a long layoff. I think if we were to stop where we are right now and nobody goes out the door and nobody else comes in, I don't think there'd be a lot of goodwill that would be translated from the fan base into the club on that.
No, I don't think so. Well, we spoke about Igamane coming in as a centre forward. We've heard in recent days about interest in Dessers, potential bids for Dessers as well. We've got players coming back from injury in that space. Do you think Igamane will be a first choice striker for Rangers, or do you expect either a current player that's in the squad or a new arrival to kind of take that berth?
I think we need another established forward player to come in there. Putting whether people leave to one side for a second, I think somebody does have to come in there. Whether Igamane becomes a first choice forward player, first choice centre forward, is up to him. That's it. He's been given a chance. He's been signed by the manager. He goes into the first team pool. It's up to him in training, and then when he gets his jersey chance, to take it and say, right, I'm pushing everybody out the way. That's the same for every player at Ibrox. Every player that comes in to Ibrox, it's entirely up to them. Nothing's given for free. Go and earn your jersey.
Do you think, just from a Cyril Dessers perspective, play devil's advocate, say Cyril Dessers stays, where do you see Igamane slotting in order-wise? Maybe difficult to say when you've not seen him in a Rangers jersey yet, but do you see, in terms of how Philippe Clement rated Cyril Dessers last year, how he's obviously excited by Igamane coming in? Igamane, 23 appearances, 7 goals, 6 assists last season. He obviously knows where the back of the net is. Would you imagine, given Igamane's a new signing, that he will come in higher up the pecking order, or is that just me being a fan and thinking, oh, the new shiny toy, it must be better?
I think both sides of that are true at the same time. It is nice and shiny, and so everybody gets excited. At the same time, it's up to him. I'm not going to duplicate what I just said. It's up to him to come in and perform and take his chances. The fact of the matter is, and you're quite right to give us those stats and those numbers, but Cyril Dessers' numbers were actually really, really good. In terms of how he actually performed. If you just looked at the clinical numbers, It's about, do you take the big chances? Can you lead the line? Do you instill fear in the opposition? Can you link up the play? All these different types of things. I would probably start to think more of that cohesive unit up top that Philippe Clement's trying to build. But yeah, if Cyril Dessers is still there, unless somebody really established comes in, then I think Cyril Dessers starts as that number 9. Right, rightly or wrongly, right? I'm on record saying he's not my first choice at number 9, but I think he's there. The question would be, obviously, is Sam Lammers absolutely going to be out the door? What do you do with that conundrum? Who do you play further forward? Do you actually go with 2 or whatever you want to do? So there's a question there of formation for Philippe Clement as well, and how he wants to match up. But Igamane comes in with a good young rep, but that's what it is. And he now needs to translate that into really good performances on the training ground, catching the eye of the manager, getting into the first team, taking his chances, hitting the back of the net for Rangers. And it sounds simple, but that's where it is. And if you do that consistently well enough, you push other people out the way. And it's up to them to raise their game. That's how it happens at every club, but particularly at big clubs like Rangers. And that's it. Competition is competition, and it's a healthy thing. And maybe we suffered from some of that last season. So, yeah, I don't care who wears the jersey as long as they're buying goals into the back of the net, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, you say that, but we watched Cyril Dessers last year and he was buying goals in and we were still frustrated. I really like Cyril as a person.
It's talking about the new season. I've reset. I'm trying to start really positive.
As a person, Cyril Dessers is a really likeable guy. His attitude was really positive. Whenever we had the chance to engage with him in press conferences, that was the case. He scored 20 plus goals last season, but I just think it's the number of chances that he misses is too hard to pass by in the eye test. And I think that's why it makes this summer the right time for Cyril Dessers to move on. By all accounts, there's bids in for him, so hopefully make a wee bit of profit on him. Then he goes with best wishes. Sam Lammers as well, you'd expect him at least meet the value that we paid for him, if not make a wee bit of profit on him as well, given his form in Holland. So
the counterpoint to that, right, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but let's say you take Lammers and Dessers out, right? You've taken out your established number 9 who did score goals, right? I'm with you on the chance he's created to miss culture there. And then Sam Lammers was doing it in a different league, right? And I'm with you on Sam Lammers needs to go. But you're taking out 2 fairly established players, right? 2 seasoned players. And you're saying, right, I've got a 21-year-old. Right? There has to be a level of experience who comes in over the top of it. And that also creates an additional gamble because you don't know how that experienced person is going to perform. What you can say right now is, rightly or wrongly, Cyril Dessers can score goals given enough chances, right? So there is a bit of a gamble inside it. I'm with you, though. I would take money for Cyril Dessers. I would take money for Sam Lammers. I would go with maybe another 1, maybe another 2 coming into the forward line alongside Igamane to give that competition.
Yeah, I'd agree with that one. Right, one final question on this one, and I'll let you go, Tommy. We spoke about the squad and the makeup of it, and there were lots of experienced players still in there that we probably expect to start to move, some of which we expect to start to move on. Where do you think the areas we still need to strengthen are this summer? You spoke a wee bit there. If that was to be the end of our business and we were to head into the new season, no one would be happy with it, really, if we're honest. And so where do you think the areas are that we do still need to strengthen as we move through the coming days and weeks?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think we still need a really good ball carrying midfielder to come in there. Somebody who can break through, get beyond as well, score goals, a goal scoring midfielder. I think we need somebody who can play out wide right, provide competition out there, and not a centre forward who can also play left or right, an actual right winger. And yeah, I probably do go with we need another centre back. Actually, but some of that's dependent on people leaving, with Ben Davies and stuff like that as well. And then there is the question that hovers in the background for everybody round about the right back berth. But that's dependent on James Tavernier leaving. If James Tavernier's still at the club, James Tavernier will be the first choice right back, would be my consideration on that.
Yeah, and we probably need another midfielder as well. We probably listed about 7 positions there that we still think.
There's still a lot of work to be done, yeah. Still a lot of work to be done. And I don't think we're going to have lots of experienced players coming in to fill in every single one of them. Some of these younger players will need to step in, and it'll be a squad game, obviously, throughout the season. But I think one midfielder, centre forward, well, a forward player, a right winger, centre back. I think there's space for another 4.
Yeah, so going by what we've just said, you should hopefully be hearing plenty more immediate transfer reactions from the team at TII over the coming weeks. But thank you very much to Tommy for joining us to have a first fan reaction to Hamza Igamane. In terms of what we've got coming up across the TII network, we are back. We're back for the new season this Sunday coming. I'll be joined by Tommy and Ross as we get the season underway with our Sunday night podcast live on YouTube at 8:30 and on all good audio platforms shortly after that. Please, if you've enjoyed this video, if you enjoy the TII content, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe on any of the audio platforms you listen to the podcast on. It helps us immensely, and it means you don't miss out on any content. But thank you very much for listening this time around, and until next time, goodbye.